Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hall Podcast Ep8. For this podcast, I will be your host today, Ryan King, and our guest is Stephanie Beacom.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
So we've been up here laughing for a couple of minutes beforehand.
No laughter was had.
Hopefully all of that's recorded to use against you at a later date.
For sure.
We'll be saving that.
Yeah.
So Stephanie, you are the student liaison? Student assistant?
Student services is my
Student
title.
services is your title, okay. So tell us a little bit about that. What's that involve?
So student services, I deal with a lot with the apprentices. I update their hours with the ITA. I do wage increases. I deal a lot with the ITA in general with their exams, marks, any general questions they may have. I'm usually there trying to respond to them.
Okay. So when they well, let's stop and go back a little bit first.
Okay, rewind.
So how did you end up here? What does that look like? So I heard there's a red seal involved somewhere. So
there is a red seal. So I'm red seal certified in hairdressing.
Okay.
It is a funny story how I ended up here. I was working as an educator for hair for about 8 to 10 years. The school that I was working at closed down, and that kind of threw me into what do I do now?
Yeah.
I could go work behind the chair, but I really enjoyed teaching. And then COVID hit. And then earlier this year, my dad gave my number to somebody in the office saying, hey, if you're looking for a bookkeeper or you're looking for somebody in the office, I got a call to come in for an interview, and here I am.
Perfect. So who's your dad?
I knew that was coming. Yeah. My dad is Paul Beacom. He is the president of Local 97. He's an iron worker.
And so you didn't become a rod buster?
He would not let me. I did ask. So when the school shut down, I actually looked into doing another trade. I was like, let's do another red seal. Why not? Yeah. And I just didn't end up happening for whatever reason. Yeah. But my dad's like, you're not becoming an iron worker.
So union's been probably part of your household since you've been a kid, I'd imagine?
Yeah, my dad, my mom, and even my sister was in unions. This is my first time being in a union, though. Yeah.
So what union are you a part of?
I'm part of the Move Up Union.
Okay.
Yeah, for the office staff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's difference, like what benefits, pluses, minuses? What's that look like for you, like being union and kind of your first glimpse into it?
Yeah, the benefits are a lot better. It's just interesting, like, as a hairstylist specifically, you work long hours. Like, you work above and beyond what you are generally paid for just because it's just what it is. Yeah. With union, it's very specific as to, like, if you're working overtime, you're getting paid overtime. If you're doing this, you're getting that. And yeah, the benefits are definitely nice.
So how many years were you, like, working the chair hairdressing?
Been working in salons since I basically left high school, so a good amount of time.
So in that time, how many times were you ever paid double time for after-hours work?
Never once. Not once.
Not even a discussion?
No. How many times did I not get my lunch? Quite frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because someone needs their perm finished.
Yeah, I need to rinse out a color, whatever it is. This person just walked in. Yeah. I honestly think that hairdressing should be something that is unionized maybe one day because they are definitely overworked.
We'll look into that.
Yeah, go for it.
Enjoy,
right?
Yeah.
Join 170, come on.
Everybody needs representation.
They do, they really do.
So you were probably encouraged to get your red seal in hairdressing? Was that something that was, if you're going to do this, make sure you do it to, some level?
I think growing up with my dad, it was definitely something that was pushed by him, but also by me as well, like something that I would want to get. I wanted certificates. I wanted proof. I wanted to prove to everybody that I could do the things and get any certification that I could. So I got licensed as soon as I could. Yeah. What's funny about hairstyling specifically is it was de-licensed so long ago, and there was actually no red seal for quite a few years. So the second that it became a red seal trade back in BC is when I went and did the test.
Yeah. I know for myself, I know nothing about hairdressing aside from the haircuts I've gotten through my life. And I can say, looking back, there's been a few haircuts I've gotten that they weren't red seal certified.
A good amount of them are not, and a good of them are not even licensed in BC. Like, anybody can pick up scissors and cut hair and say they're a hairstylist. Like, there's no licensing, there's nothing. It's just a free-for-all right now.
Well, it's good that there's a Red Seal program.
Yes, and apprenticeship program.
In the wage wagon, we actually have one of the test dummies they use for the training.
Yep.
His name's Tony. His name's on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And whoever cut his hair, he's got a wicked mullet. Like
nice.
He's sporting it. So we carry him around in the wage wagon with us and put him up on the dash for the HOV lane.
Our new apprentice.
And that's pretty awesome. So now moving forward, so you ended up here. So COVID shut down your job basically. Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, a little bit before that, but COVID was a big deterrent for anything like that.
We've seen with the membership, people coming in from the non-union sector and different things like COVID. Some employers did all kinds of crazy, nasty stuff during COVID, right?
I think COVID was a big eye-opener for most employees, and hopefully for the employers, but if not, definitely for the employees looking for more balance with their work.
Yeah. A lot of the younger crowd coming in, like say in the apprentice world, which obviously you deal with every day, they come in and, we talk about, onboarding and what the union looks like and all these kind of things. And, most people kind of go to wage, pension, those kind of things. But kind of during COVID and after COVID, the theme I saw amongst a lot of the younger people was like, we want like representation. Yeah. And they're like, wage was a couple questions in. They're like, so if we have an issue with the employer on the job site, like is there someone we can talk to, or what does that avenue look like? And I'm like, oh, this is like a different conversation, right? It's, there's a bit of a shift going on there, right? So, which is nice to see, because people realize it's important to have someone that looks out for your best interest, right?
Yeah,
so
100%.
So in your role, you're looking out for the apprentices' best interest. So do you, like when the apprentices come in, is there like, what do they get from you to say, hey, like welcome, like what does that look like?
So generally the process for the apprentices that I generally see is they've joined the union. And so Bill gives me their paperwork for the school. I process that. And then I send them a boot camp paperwork. And that's usually my hello, like, welcome to UA Piping College. And then they fill out the paperwork and give it back to me. And that's when they get signed as an apprentice with the ITA if they're not already. If not, we'll become their sponsor at that time. Yeah.
So with that boot camp, what are some of the things you touch on? Like,
we send them the apprenticeship guidelines, like the standards of practice, if you will. We also send just a contract stating that they, that they've read them and that they understand what they're signing on to. ITA paperwork, and just like a pledge to be a great apprentice with us.
So you also touch on the ITA. So as you assume sponsorship for all the members, right? That are apprentices. So from first year up until they get the Red Seal. So you input all their hours, you send that into ITA?
So we get their hours monthly, and that gets updated monthly with the ITA, which is quite nice, because I know that some other sponsors aren't able to do that. They're required to, I think, upload every 6 months.
Oh, really?
So with us, because we're a large sponsor, we're allowed to upload once a month, every month.
Well, I didn't know that. That's a huge benefit, especially for the member to see their hours
quite frequently, and they can keep track of it. And I usually recommend like keeping track of their union app hours as well as the ITA hours. They never match up, and they can definitely email me and I'll let them know why. But keep track of your hours to make sure they're updated, and then let me know if it doesn't seem like it's matching.
There's a contrast between different people, because I've had calls from guys, like I know when I was an apprentice, I kept track of my hours, right?
For sure,
I'm watching them.
You should.
It's you see the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yes,
like,
counting down.
And I've had calls from guys, like, hey, I'm a J-man now. Like, and I'm like, well, okay, like, they got 1 hour over, right?
Yeah,
and like, it should be on my lap. I'm like, well, there's a bit of time for the processing.
Yes,
like,
there's paperwork.
Let the system, luckily they're getting monthly reporting and not 6 month reporting. So I've talked with a lot of people coming in that have come in from like the non-union. They're like, yeah, I'm working as a plumber, say, and I don't have any hours. I'm like, okay, well, how long? I worked for a year. They said I had to do 6 months probation before they would submit my hours. And, that's, obviously these companies are free to have whatever kind of rules they want. And whatever. But I'm thinking, if you're doing the job, it doesn't cost you anything to sign off the guy's hours.
Not at all.
And so it's kind of like a tactic, right? And I feel so bad for these guys, because I'm like, some of them have, they could have had, an extra 1,000 hours or whatever, right? And
Well,
that goes a long way.
Sometimes I've had some apprentices come in that have worked non-union before, and I've had to add their previous hours. So usually they have to get a letter from their employer, ROE. There's documentation. Then I have to get approval with Will.
Yeah.
But I've done it where I've given them previous hours because their previous employer was not going to, and I'm like, that's not really fair for them.
No,
you've earned those hours.
Yeah,
you've worked towards them.
As an apprentice, you're working a job to do the job, but you're also working towards your red seal as well. You're working
financial freedom in your future, sure.
You have as an apprentice, you got a little bit more skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
And so to kind of get the short end of the stick on that is
it happens more often, I find, in non-union. Again, the union's there to support you, luckily, but I've been hearing a lot of new apprentices coming in going like, no, my previous employer would not sign off on my recommendation for certification. So he had the hours, he passed his red seal, but his employer needs to sign off saying that he's a red seal certified with the ITA, and they wouldn't do it.
So they hold it hostage.
Yeah, and so he gets paid less because he's not theoretically a journey person yet, but he should be.
Yeah, we had a guy just in my office recently where he's working as a foreman. He's like, I've been a foreman for years. He's running crews. This guy's got years in industry and really good at his job. And he goes, I didn't pass my red seal though. He said 69% or something, like right on that. I'm like, oh, you
so
can
close.
taste it, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I've been working for one company in particular for this kind of duration of time, and he's got a little bit better than the J-man rate. He's a foreman. He's a really great guy to deal with.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's kind of the hustle, because we want you to get your red seal. We want you to be the best you can.
Yep.
We don't want you to be a career fourth year. And what that in his particular situation is, they're going to keep you. They don't care if you have the red seal or not.
No.
But at some point, you're kind of so invested with that contractor that if they decide not to maybe bump you up the wage with everyone else or whatever, they go, well, you don't have your red seal, right? And it's like they kind of hustled you in a way, right? And I'm like,
they're manipulating you. They're keeping you where you are, trying to keep you like happy enough, but you could be doing so much better, and they know that.
Yeah, and so when you kind of point that out, and they go, yeah, no, that's a good point, and it's like, so do you guys, if someone's in your system that is, say, fourth year, and they had trouble with the IP, do you guys like kind of re-engage with them and say, hey, sign up for a refresher course, or like how does that look? Yeah,
we definitely have refresher courses that we try to run. It's kind of a give and take between them and me. They have to let me know that they're trying. Sometimes I don't necessarily see them after a certain point, but we are doing follow-ups after so many hours to try to connect with them again. Like, hey, like we've seen that you've completed all this. How can we help you? The ITA is really pushing to get people to complete their red seals as well, so they are also following up. So together we really support apprentices going all the way and completing their red seal.
Do you know off the top of your head roughly how many apprentices are in our system, or in your system, I should say, right now?
Between 700 and 800.
Nice. And what trade primarily, or is that a mixed bag?
It is a mixed bag, but you will find that there's probably more plumbers to the other trades. As for percentages, I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of across the board with all of ITA. Like plumbers are a higher percentage, and then sprinkler and steam, I think, would probably be divided more equally.
So now, with the trades, they've kind of ITA's kind of changing stuff up. So with the new harmonized trades. Has that made any more work on your end? Like what?
Yes and no. Right now, we're just trying to figure out who's still in the non-harmonized program to get them up to speed with the harmonized. We've had some issues where people have not switched over to the harmonized right away, and then they came for a harmonized course, and then with the ITA, they will flag that. And so we have to try to prove that they've had upgrading, and it's kind of up to the discretion of the ITA whether allow them to write, say, the red seal or whatever exam it may be, or will they have to go back and write, take the second level or whatever level previous to the one that they're in again. So we're just trying to make sure that everybody's up to current harmonized levels so that there's no more issues with that. Yeah,
it's a bit of a crossover. It's like, I talk with a lot of people coming in, like when the apprentices are trying to sign up or they want to sign up. And kind of touching on these things, and some of them are on the old, like I just kind of skated in on the old system where they're still doing their gas ticket and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of talk to these guys, I'm like, you don't understand how lucky you got. I'm like, do that gas ticket.
Yes,
like,
get that gas ticket.
Get that gas ticket while you can, because from my understanding, from what I've heard, that it's going to be a little tougher to get.
It's going to be its own certification afterwards.
So do you have anybody in your system that's actually doing that gas system now, or?
We have a couple people that are looking towards it. They're still trying to finalize kind of what that program will look like, and what the course load will look like. So it's not finalized yet. So we haven't moved forward with it. We're hoping, I think, January to have more concrete dates on that.
Yeah. We, well, you and I both attended along with a lot of the other memberships. So we had our long service awards.
Yes, that was nice.
And first time since COVID and everything. And this year we linked in the apprenticeship awards with it, which was super cool to see.
I love that. It was a great idea.
It was neat seeing, you got some people getting their 65-year award, and then you got a group of apprentices getting their, the red seals, right?
What was really amazing is one apprentice that didn't actually RSVP ended up showing up because I think either his dad or his grandfather was getting in a long service award, and he's like, can I pick up my red seal too? I was like, for sure.
Absolutely.
And seeing like the family got to witness both was really
That's
nice.
cool. Like photo op right here.
Yeah, like what a great memory.
Yeah, it was. I had a blast, and it was great to see that. And so, I don't obviously have any poll, but I would think that will probably happen again, because it just everyone that was there was like, this is
such a great time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess now what does 2023 look like? Has you guys got anything, new systems in place, new courses coming up? What can apprentices be looking forward to?
Because I started this year, a lot of it was a learning curve for me. I think 2023 is going to be a lot more streamlined. We're going to be a lot more of a tight-knit group. We're going to have...
That is a fail on my part.
Someone's more important than me. That's fine.
The on me.
But yeah, 2023 is looking like it's going to be an amazing year. I'm really excited for it. I think we have lots in store that you'll find out about later.
Yeah, perfect. Good. I know on our side of the street, there's been lots of focus on streamlining, the processes and kind of getting that stuff kind of dialed in, right? Yeah. So, trying to get rid of paper, like that's a big one, right? Yeah. So obviously we work together. A lot of people probably don't understand that system, but from the organizing department, I get applications, then we bring them to you, and then they get approval on your end, and then they come back to us, and we have a system worked out, and it works. It works. It's sometimes it takes time, and with the organizing and with the apprentices, like you want to do it quick, right? Yeah. Like I don't want a person to kind of be waiting, or especially if they don't have a job, right? Yes. Or if they're switching jobs, and it's like I don't want to see someone go a week or 2 weeks without a paycheck. Yes. So it's trying to work that. So I know there's some of that stuff in the background.
Yeah, for sure.
Going on. So that's good to see.
Yeah.
With the apprentices coming in and the application process, what are some of the hurdles that you see, with processing or getting that kind of completed on your end?
Them having all the paperwork when they submit it. So when you have missing paperwork, it usually has to be held back until we get that paperwork. And if you're missing more than one and you're sending them to me separately, things can get a little lost in translation. So it's best to have it all submitted all at once. When it comes to applications, Bill and yourself are really good at making sure that they're all there. But sometimes we try to push it through just so that we can get it done faster. But we need like a high school transcript, we need a doctor's note currently, and then references, and those are kind of the three things that we really look for. And with the transcript, making sure that they have a math of like grade 10 or higher. So
the math, that's I've tried to slip in a few applications missing a document.
Not going to name any names, but yes.
So math 10, that's kind of the line in the sand, right?
Yes, the bare minimum.
Or some equivalent to that. And then the references. So 3 references, which is part of the application.
Currently,
and those could be past employers, friends.
As long as they're not your spouse, almost anybody can sign off on that.
Perfect. My spouse might give me a bad reference anyhow.
She totally would.
And then, so there's the references, there's the doctor's note. Doctor's notes, that's family doctor walk in, they just got to stamp it.
Honestly, yeah, anything, just stamping it.
Yeah, and that's just making sure you're like fit to work kind of thing.
Yeah, there's just no red flags. There's nothing that's out of the ordinary. And it's not even that they would discredit you for having those things. It's just more of an awareness. Like, can you physically do this job? Because it can be physically demanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say they are physically demanding.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, and then getting all of it at once. So now applications end up on weird people's desks, like
all the time.
Not weird people's desks. They take a weird path to get to people's desks.
Yes.
So, I get the dispatcher. He's like, "Hey Ryan, I got emailed to me." I'm like, "What did that get emailed for? Like, how did they even get your email?" Right? It's so. A lot of people, if I'm bringing them in, or the organizing department is, we're like, "Hey, here's the union app, here's the school app. Bring them both to us,
and
then
we'll
back. Right? Because then. But then also you guys get applications on your side for the school where they don't join the union as well, right?
Yes,
The school, you just don't monitor any of those apprentices. Because those apprentices are in the.
When they're in the school, I monitor them in the sense that I can still answer questions. I can still try to support them the best I can.
Yeah.
But I don't have as much interaction unless they're part of the union.
Yeah. Perfect.
There's just less for me to do for them.
Yeah. So what's the, roughly, you have a complete application.
Yep.
What's the average turnaround time for that in your department?
Generally, I would say a day or two. But with the job and with the director, sometimes he's out of town for weeks. Vacations play a part of it as well. So I would say generally a good estimate would be, I would say, a week at most.
Yep.
And at any time, they're more than welcome to follow up with me and be like, "Hey, where is this?" And I can kind of let them know.
Yep.
I know once we have approval on our end, it could also take a bit longer on the union side too.
Yeah.
It's, again, just people and signatures. And if it was digitalized, we could probably...
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the concerns, working towards this whole digitalized kind of system. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see that in the new year where
fingers crossed.
it can just take a little bit of the slack out, right?
Yes.
So I bring an application to you, apprentice gets signed off, it comes back to our department, then from there we have our union application, which it goes upstairs for approvals, checks within the UA system, all that stuff, right? Which it all takes time.
Yep.
We're probably a week or so on our side too as well.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it's longer. Sometimes the quickest one I have ever seen has been like a day.
Yeah.
And that's
everybody's in the building. Yeah. Everybody's like on their A game.
Everyone was there, and I kind of was like, it came back, was back in my hand in 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, and I'm I'm setting a record here, right? That's not the norm, right?
No.
So. And then in our system, once they're approved, they're in the system until they pay their fees to join, and sometimes that takes time, right? So people have lives, right? So they work it with what they got going on.
Yeah.
School scheduling. So the apprentices, would they schedule schooling with you, or do they schedule with the front desk? How does that work?
Generally, they schedule with the front desk, just because management does have to take a payment for their deposit. But I'm more than welcome to answer questions on when classes are being run, or if there's availability. I'm usually there to help out as well, but usually.
So if you're watching their hours, are you going like, hey, you're kind of overdue for school, or do you guys kind of?
Generally, I do that more along their rate. So that after a certain hour amount and schooling amount, they kind of get capped at their rate before they take another level. And so usually I let them know, hey, you're going to be capped at this rate until you take level 3 or level 4.
There's a pretty good
motivation,
It's like, hey, guess what? You want to make more money? You get the next.
Yeah, you got the hours. You just need the schooling now.
Yeah. So do you see a lot of people doing back-to-back schooling?
I think I see a mixture of it. It really just depends on, everybody has their own pathway with their apprenticeship. So some people want to work more. Some people like the balance of one time off for a level, work more, and then go back. Yeah. So yes, I see it, but I also see people not doing it too. It really, honestly, just depends on their life and where they're working and different factors.
Yeah, and it's a little different because it's all adult education. So
that's what's great about apprenticeship, is that you get to take it at your own pace, and you get to decide kind of for yourself.
Yeah, and you're in control of it, right? I talk to a lot of apprentices, like, hey, you don't want to be the master of, whatever, putting in anchors or carrying materials. You're in control of your apprenticeship, so make sure you're getting well-rounded. You're getting exposure to different things, and because once you got the red seal, you're kind of off, right? And then not that you're left to pasture, because the school's here for, you know, the upgrading courses and all that stuff as well, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably see lots of apprentices coming back as journey persons, and
Yep.
they probably stop in and say hi on their way in. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
on the podcast. Do you have anything to add, or do you have any questions?
I have all the questions,
Yeah.
but we don't have the time for that. Thank you for having me, though. This was fun.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for watching the podcast. Please like and subscribe if you like what you hear, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.